waiting for this day for a long time.
Captain America Civil War stars Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. The Avengers have caused a lot of destruction through their past adventures. And a lot of people have died for that, and the Avengers are starting to see the consequences of what could happen. So eventually there's this thing where the government wants to keep the Avengers in check and they have control over what they do. Iron Man wants to go with this plan and Captain America does not. And as the movie progresses, there's more people that side with Iron Man and side with Cap. They side with those points of view. And that starts a lot of turmoil and a lot of anger between some of the Avengers, and they go head to head in this huge battle, and it's Captain America Civil War. So guys, Captain America Civil War is a movie everyone was hyping. I mean, this movie is the Avengers fighting. It's basically Captain America versus Iron Man. And of course, it's a Marvel movie, so everyone's going to be excited for it. It's basically an Avengers movie, even though they say it's Captain America Civil War. You got new characters in this movie like Black Panther and Spider-Man to also make you excited for this movie. Everyone was just so excited for this movie. And guys, I gotta say, they absolutely hit the ball out of the park with this movie. Captain America Civil War is the best Marvel movie of all time. I'm not just saying that because I'm a fanboy. I mean, each character in this movie has clear motivation for what they're doing. Each character is able to feel relevant. Their motivations make sense. You understand why they're doing what they're doing. Because some may be worried that they're cramming way too many characters in this movie, but honestly for me, I felt like all of their motivations were well realized, particularly in Iron Man. Robert Downey Jr. is the best he's ever been as Iron Man in this movie. I mean, in this movie you can tell this guy feels betrayed. That's just one of the things that this movie does so well. It really shows that the characters have clear motivations and was able to make everyone feel relevant. Chris Evans as Captain America, I could understand him. I was already on Team Cap before this movie happened because they had the whole Team Cap, Team Iron Man thing, which is basically just promotional stuff. Chris Evans is obviously amazing as Cap once again, but the thing with this movie is that, yes, there's two sides, and a lot of people are going towards Team Cap, including me. But throughout this movie, I felt myself switching sides because the stuff that they said made perfect sense for both sides of the story. The stuff Tony Stark was saying made sense, and I identified with it. It was really hard to actually pick a side. I kept going back and forth. The movie really shows that the Avengers have consequences for what goes down in their hero work. And it's so good. Every character in this movie is phenomenal. I absolutely love everyone. It would take way too long to mention everyone, so I'm just going to name some in particular. Ant-Man finally joins the Avengers. Ant-Man is so good. I mean, this guy was so funny in this movie. Ant-Man has to be one of my favorite MCU characters because he's just so hilarious. Vision in this movie also, I was really surprised by him because he was only in Age of Ultron for a little bit, and in this movie, he's hilarious. I was so surprised by how funny Vision was in this movie. He and Scarlet Witch also seem to have a romance being implied because in the comics they were a thing, so I think that's probably going to be branched out in more movies. It was just like a really vague imply in this movie. And Scarlet Witch, by the way, is fantastic. I love seeing more of her. She's a great character. She's also very nice to look at, because I have to point that out every time. But you already know those characters are great. There are other characters in the movie that are new, like Black Panther. Oh my gosh, Black Panther was so good. His motivation made perfect sense. He was a character that was grieving. He was fantastic in this movie. I cannot wait for Black Panther. I mean, he kicked so much butt in the action scenes. Black Panther was so great. And then there's the obvious, probably the thing I was most excited to see in this movie, Spider-Man, played by Tom Holland. Perfect. Perfect. Tom Holland is easily the best Spider-Man we've ever had. I mean, you had Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man. He was great as Spider-Man, but he wasn't as quippy as he was in the comics. And then there's Andrew Garfield, who was a little bit more quippy, but actually not by that much. But Tom Holland, he is just spitting out quips like all the time, and they were all perfect and so funny. One of his lines was a reference to Star Wars, and I was just like, oh my gosh! Tom Holland was a poor, young, geeky kid, and you could really see that in his performance as Peter Parker. He was really awkward and geeky. I can't say that his Peter Parker is better than Maguire's because he only had one scene as Peter Parker, but for what he had, I thought he was fantastic. Bring on Spider-Man Homecoming. I need it now. And also the villain character. This character has been the biggest complaint from everyone that saw this movie. And I'm gonna be honest here, I actually really like this guy. I thought he was a great villain. I mean, he's not like a superhero that fights, he's not like a super villain, but he's basically just a normal human being with motivation that made sense. And I thought he was fantastic. I actually really like this villain. He's not like the coolest thing you'll see in the movie, but for what he had to do, I thought it was good. I actually really liked the villain. Guys, I have to mention the action in this movie. Some of it is revolutionary. The airport fight scene. You saw a little bit of it in the trailers where the characters charge at each other and it's Team Cap, Team Iron Man fighting. That fight is one of the best action scenes I have ever seen in my life. I am not kidding you. This fight was so much fun. It was so suspenseful. It was so funny. It was just an absolute perfect fight. I never wanted it to end, and it's the best comic book action scene ever. Some of you, while watching the trailers, may think this movie has a lot less humor than the other Marvel movies. It doesn't. I mean, this movie has jokes all over the place, especially in that airport fight scene. And there is other great action scenes besides the airport fight that are also fantastic. But you can definitely tell that the action in this movie is mostly in camera. You can tell that a lot of the actors are doing the stunts and it's not like all a CGI mess. The Russo brothers did such a fantastic job directing the action, and it's some of the best action I've ever seen in a comic book movie. This is easily the darkest Marvel movie we've had so far as well. And like, there's so many violent scenes in this movie that were legitimately disturbing, and they were just like, ugh. Oh, that was, ooh, sheesh. Compared to the Avengers movies and all the other Marvel movies we've had so far, this is easily the darkest, most violent, gritty one, and it was all for the better. So much emotion that comes from this movie as well, and especially from Iron Man, because the guy feels betrayed and you feel so bad for him on so many scenes. This movie honestly made me care about each of the characters more than I did in the previous movies. Scarlet Witch, I cared about her more. Vision, I cared about him more. War Machine even, I cared about him more. Each of the smaller characters are fleshed out more and it makes you care about them so much more. Guys, Civil War is a comic book masterpiece. I mean, this is the best comic book movie since The Dark Knight in my opinion. So guys, I am absolutely giving Captain America Civil War an A+. Hallelujah. Oh my gosh, I can't believe how good this movie is. I need to see it again. I need to go to the theater and see this movie again. I'm debating whether I like The Force Awakens or Captain America Civil War more. It's that good. So guys, I was doing a Spider-Man series leading up to this movie and I never finished it. I never got to Amazing Spider-Man because I'm busy. I went to New York City a few weeks ago and I got this there, which I showed earlier. Yeah, I've been really busy lately, so I never got a chance to do the review of Amazing Spider-Man 2, and I will probably bring that to you within the next couple weeks, hopefully. It's still kind of busy with the end of school and stuff. Oh, Captain America Civil War is so good. Do not miss this one. This movie makes Batman v Superman wet its pants.